Have you ever wondered if airlines have hidden secrets? Rumors that fly higher than their planes, stories that are not told in the cabin. Today, we take off into the fascinating world of British Airways, an airline with a turbulent history, epic battles, and a rampant lion that has conquered the skies. Let's go back to 1919. The world was still recovering from the Great War, and the skies, formerly the exclusive territory of birds, were beginning to be crossed by flying machines. In that context, Aircraft Transport and Travel Limited, AT&T, was born, one of the first British airlines. Its vision: to connect London with the world. Imagine the audacity, the risk. Flying was an adventure reserved for a few. But AT&T was not alone. Other airlines emerged, competing for a piece of the aerial pie. British Marine Air Navigation Co. Limited, Daimler Airway, Instone Airline. Names that today sound like an echo of a pioneering past. The problem? Competition was fierce, and profitability elusive. The solution came in 1924, the merger. These airlines joined to form Imperial Airways Limited, a giant with a clear mission: to connect the British Empire. Africa, Asia, Australia. The sky was the limit. Imperial Airways became synonymous with luxury, adventure, and the promise of a more connected world. Imagine traveling by seaplane across the Mediterranean, landing in exotic cities. But the world kept changing. The 1930s brought technological advances and the need for a more modern and efficient airline. Thus, in 1935, British Airways Limited was born, a private airline that competed directly with Imperial Airways. The rivalry was palpable, the tension in the air. World War II changed everything. Both airlines were nationalized, and their resources were devoted to the war effort. The planes, once symbols of luxury, were transformed into instruments of war. The pilots, into anonymous heroes. After the war, in 1946, British European Airways, B, was created, focused on flights within Europe, and British Overseas Airways Corporation, BOAC, in charge of long-distance routes. The rampant lion, the symbol of BOAC, became an emblem recognized throughout the world. But the story does not end there. In the 1970s, the British government decided to merge B and BOAC, creating the British Airways we know today. On April 1, 1974, a giant was born. The following years were of growth and expansion. British Airways opted for innovation, invested in new technology, and established itself as one of the world's leading airlines. The Concorde, the supersonic plane that linked London and New York in record time, became a symbol of the brand, a dream come true. But it wasn't all a bed of roses. British Airways faced economic crises, strikes, accidents, and the growing competition from other airlines. The privatization in 1987 marked a before and after, forcing the airline to be more efficient and competitive. And this is where the story gets interesting. Have you heard of the Concorde curse? Some believe that the tragic accident of the Air France Concorde in 2000 unleashed a curse on the British Airways fleet. Rumors about unexplained failures, constant delays, and an atmosphere of tension among the pilots fueled the legend. Simple coincidence or something more? The truth, as often happens, lies in a nebulous terrain. Other myths surround the figure of Lord King, the CEO who led the privatization of British Airways. It was said that he was a relentless man, obsessed with efficiency and willing to do anything to achieve his goals. Some saw him as a visionary, others as a ruthless businessman. The reality is probably somewhere in between. Today, British Airways remains a benchmark in the industry. It has overcome crises, adapted to changes, and maintained its British identity. The rampant lion continues to fly, although now in a much more competitive and challenging world. British Airways has had to reinvent itself to remain competitive. The arrival of low-cost airlines and new technologies have forced the company to adapt. Its planes are now more modern and quieter, but the ghost of the Concorde still haunts the hangars. But its history is much more than planes and numbers. It is a story of ambition, innovation, rivalry, and overcoming challenges. A story that reminds us that, sometimes, behind a simple logo, there is a whole legend that deserves to be told. Because sometimes, behind a simple logo, there is a whole story that few know. And you, do you dare to discover more secrets of the brands that surround us? If you enjoyed this flight through the history of British Airways, don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our stories. Leave us a comment and tell us what other brand you would like us to investigate.